I'm trying to find it on Facebook, but I will turn my volume off.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to another online session. Tonight, I'm very excited to present another amazing educator from the United States. And we have also a very interesting topic. The title of tonight's presentation is Action and Advocacy Through Inquiry, Project-Based Learning. So we have Vanessa Heller with us tonight. And Vanessa has a lot of experience in this area, so I'm sure we'll learn a lot from her. Hi Vanessa, welcome to Everyone Academy. Before we start sharing the presentation, I just want to remind the audience that the main mission of the Everyone Academy is to bring educators together, encourage online collaboration among individuals, teachers, supervisors, university students, and professors. So we are basically a community of teachers who are trying to help each other grow personally and professionally. We believe in the power of collaboration, especially in these difficult times. We need each other. We are like resources. We can learn from each other, because no one knows everything. When we meet, we learn from each other. Each one of us has certain certain strengths in certain areas. So welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much. And let me share my screen here so we can get started.
Yes, of course.
Go. All right. Hoping everyone can see this. Aziz, are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much to Aziz for having me join your wonderful group and reaching out to everyone everywhere. And I welcome you to Action and Advocacy and Inquiry, or PBL, as a lot of people refer to it. And the main thing is that inquiry is about purpose. It's not necessarily about projects. I always say, why make a thing when you can make an impact? So I really want to impress that upon you. And it is a process. It involves driving questions, real issues, which makes it authentic, and the ability to help our students take action, something that means something to them and to the world at large, ideally. And so our driving question right now is, how do we encourage inquiry and civic action in our classroom, in our school, in our district? And that's what we're here for in the next 60 to 90 minutes. The bit.ly is here to this entire presentation. I have all sorts of links to resources and handy things you can use and modify, as long as you give credit, of course. So Aziz, if you wouldn't mind putting that into the chat, just a couple times through the presentation. It's bit.ly/act and ad for Action and Advocacy 2021. That is a 0. And what I would love to know from anyone listening is where you're from. I would love to know. I'm in Southern California, USA. I would love to know where anyone else is logging on from. I just would love to know that. And I welcome everyone. I see someone, Azadine, if I'm saying that correctly. I would love to know where you're from. And a little bit about me. I won't read this whole thing, but I've been a teacher for a while. I'm starting my 24th year, and I've been teaching humanities, which is language arts and social studies, well over a decade, to 6th graders. And it's just a really fun prepubescent time. There's something fun and frustrating every day. I run an outside group of educators and administrators called Teachers for Equity, where we look at what we can do better as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm part of my district's diversity and equity task force. I'm a huge gifted education advocate, and I present throughout the state and across the country on inquiry and gifted education. So If you need to reach me, direct message me on Twitter. It's at Hell to Teach, Hell for my last name, for any of you thinking otherwise. But any questions, please contact me. All right. I see there's a lot of Morocco in the house. All right. I will get there one day, I promise. So here's the thing with us in the classroom versus kids in the world, kids in the wild, if you will. Students are here with us in the classroom, but they're not necessarily thinking about what we're thinking about. And so they might be thinking about their family getting deported, or violence in schools, or not being able to see themselves represented in the materials that we're presenting, their voices not being heard, school loans, things like that. And I was just in a professional development where we were discussing the importance of pronouns, using proper pronouns, and that no matter what an English teacher thinks about correct grammar, we're going to use they when it's appropriate. So students are thinking about other things, real things. And so it behooves us to really bring current events in, things that interest the students, asking the students, and bring this up for discussion. And it keeps our curriculum relevant by tying what we do to what kids think and wonder about. And so I just really want to impress that upon you. And I don't know if anyone is as old as I am here or familiar with this meme. It's Pink Floyd. This is the song, Another Brick in the Wall. I will not sing it for you, but I did include the link to the video for you for your listening pleasure later. But you can see that, at least in the United States, public education, we're really an antiquated model built on this factory model of producing products. You know, line them up, teach them, knock them out. But in the real world, kids are participating in marches and protests and joining groups, the Gay Straight Alliance. And there's a picture of my daughter and her friend. They're at the Women's March. So yes, in school, she's writing her papers, but then she's going to a march. And so I hope this is not the case with us, where we have this factory model. And I have a feeling, since you're joining Everyone Academy, you're very interested in breaking out of that traditional mold. So we've got to connect. We have to connect school and learning. When I grew up, school and learning were not the same. I was bored in school. I taught myself what I wanted to know. But I'm really hoping we can put these together for children. And I think this global collaboration is beautiful for that. So in the wise words of Pink Floyd, don't be another brick in the wall. No more thought control. Let's connect with our kids and find out what is meaningful and important to them, and let's capitalize on it. And the way we can do that is through the inquiry model. And so what is inquiry? And there are many models to inquiry. What I have gleaned, I've been teaching through inquiry for many, many years, and I've studied different models, whether it's PBL Works or Harvey and Daniels, Trevor McKenzie, Launch Cycle. They all have some basic commonalities. First, we set the stage. We set the environment for inquiry. We know how to set an engaging classroom, how to be open, how to listen. But it begins with a question. What do we wonder? This also means, what angers us? When kids complain, they're telling you something. Something is not sitting right with them. Their complaint is really a question, a poorly formed question that you're going to help them articulate. It is a need to meet. Okay, there's a need at school. There's a need in the classroom. There's a need in the world. How can we meet that? So it's that question, that inspiration. And so let's go about answering it. This is the meat. This is the teaching, the identifying, collecting resources, the textual understanding needed to read, write, and think critically about our question. Evaluating resources. We all know we're online here together. The importance of digital literacy, the importance of being able to assess any source for validity and trustworthiness. Sense making. This is where a formative assessment comes in. Do our students understand? Are they still pursuing that driving question? And that's our job as educators, to constantly check for understanding. Our students, They may think they have the answer to the question. Let's reflect, let's refine. And failure is part and parcel of inquiry. And that's why I have this, this scribble here. Notice it starts at the bottom and goes towards success. But boy, there's a lot of squiggles and knots along the way. Failure is so important. Failure, this is very cliche, but it's your first attempt in learning. Let failure fuel that fire to learn. Oops, I messed up. Excellent. Great job messing up. Let's look at why you messed up. What do you need to do differently? Great. Let's go. Celebrate failure and move on. Too many kids get hung up in failure. Let's celebrate it, use it to make our next step. And that's a scientific method anyway. And then of course, let's use the info. And this is the part of action and advocacy is now that we think we have answered our question, we have built a prototype, we have designed a solution, let's try it out. That's important. And part of this is being an advocate for self and others, an advocate for your cause and acting upon it. And so those are the basic steps. It's not meant to be complicated. And I have presented it to you in a linear model, but it is really, it's not even cyclical necessarily. It's very recursive. You'll often evaluate resources and find out you need more, or you're headed in the wrong direction. Or when you're checking for understanding, you need to backtrack and the teacher needs to help you with some mini lessons. So it's recursive, and that's why I love this little squiggle. This path to success is very knotted. So there's a great hashtag. It's hashtag fail forward. Love that. And if Yoda says the greatest teacher failure is, you know it's good. So if Yoda says it, it's good. So here is, there's a question, women's places in the House and the Senate. This is just about that picture I showed you on another slide is simply about more female representation in our houses of government. I hope that answers your question. Let me click here. Good. Okay. So I told you inquiry starts with driving questions, that need, that problem to solve, that anger, something that is bothering you, that's not sitting well with you. Driving questions can be abstract. They can be very, very specific and concrete. What does the Second Amendment really mean? School violence has been a big thing in the United States. And we've got Second Amendment advocates, they're sticking to it. And there was a time when they wanted to arm teachers, where I'm supposed to have a gun in my classroom. How to reduce gun violence in schools. And really simple for our little ones. If you teach primary, the little kids, why do kids bully others? How do we stop bullying? How to be a friend, how to make a friend, how to be a friend. Those are wonderful driving questions for the younger set, and frankly, for any set. How do we protect students from themselves and others? If you want to address mental health issues, especially now post-pandemic, or perhaps we're still mid-pandemic. So these are just a couple of questions. And for us, is our Constitution a static or dynamic document? For us in the United States, that's a really, really hotbed issue. And what I love, do kids have political power? And really my presentation today is about kid power. And kids will always say, what can I do? This is what we're talking about. Will my voice make a difference? Will my vote make a difference? How democratic is democracy? These are wonderful questions, really huge. The kids narrow it down, and that is their research. So are we okay with this? Okay, good. Aziz, remember, just interrupt me anytime anyone has a question. So I wanted to give you these two resources, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with them or not, but because I do a lot with gifted education, gifted and talented students, and all students, not just them, when we do driving questions, we incorporate something called universal themes developed by Dr. Sandra Kaplan at one of our universities here. And think of them like big ideas. They're overarching, they're across disciplines, things like change. Change can be good or bad. Patterns, what are the patterns in the development of ancient civilizations? Community. A community is a beautiful one for the start of this school year. I start school in a few days. How can we rebuild our community? We've been on distance learning. We have students that have not been to a school in a year and a half. How do we rebuild community? What is the structure of community? How do we build relationships? And so what you have here are these big ideas: change, patterns, community, and then you have the generalizations underneath. And they really help make very deep yet broad driving questions when you combine them with what students want to know. Now, on the right side of the screen, you have cross-cutting concepts. You'll see they're very similar. These are very science-based. And the reason I include them is because, yes, I teach humanities, but I know we have teachers of math and science, things like that. And here in California, we follow the national, what is it called? Oh, next generation science standards. But I want you to know that these are truly universal. You have cause and effect. It's the same thing with universal themes. So I want to gift these to you. You can link to the PDFs of them and really play around with them. I have these all over my classroom, which you can't see. And we're constantly talking, pointing to them, talking about them. Oh, you're speaking about relationships, and we're talking about conflicts in society. So think about these as you put driving questions together with your students. So I don't know about these. I don't know where everyone's coming from necessarily. So I don't know if everyone has a set of curriculum standards with your areas, but we do. We have by grade level, we're age-based grading. We have certain curriculum we must teach and a certain way we must teach it. So with inquiry, you are able to teach your content, teach to your standards in a way that is more authentic. And so what I do is I try to integrate my curriculum across both disciplines, ideally with my math and science partner, of which I have 3. But we have specifically chosen our novels, our short stories. We integrate them with our topics in, with ancient civilizations. And then what I've done the last couple of years, and this is still a work in progress, I have put my curriculum and my standards into this trajectory. We start the year with building awareness of ourselves and others. This is getting to know our own identities, getting to know each other, and getting to know what's going on in the world. So news, I show CNN 10. It's kid-friendly news. And I do have a slide for you later on with wonderful resources, different ways to get current events. I'm sure you all have your own sources. And then we start to advocate for others. Once we study what's going on in the world, how can we be a voice for others? How do we use our voice for those who are currently voiceless? Or how do we, and this is a big thing really with the diversity and equity movements in the United States, is how do some groups maybe not talk so much anymore, let others be heard. So there's that balance as well. And then how do we take action? If students have chosen a driving question, they are testing out solutions. What can we do about it? How can we pursue this cause? How can we promote it? How can we do something? And like I said earlier, kids always ask, what can I do? And I said, what a great question. What can you do? I'm not answering it for them. That's for them to figure out. I'm just here to help. Don't give your kids all the answers. And so this is where service learning comes in, whether they do charity work or something like that, but ideally they're doing true social action, social justice, and we're talking civic action, how to be a citizen. A citizen means you participate in your government, how to be that true change agent. And so this is kind of what I've been working on and what I'm really sharing with you today. All right. Good. Okay. So the other thing I don't know how old anybody is, but does anyone know who this is? I'm just going to tell you. It's Abbott and Costello. They're an old comedy team and they just make me giggle. And here's the thing. Don't tell your students everything that you're doing. That's no fun. You carefully plan the inquiry process. You have your materials, you have your schedule. Sure, that's all behind the scenes. You are planning to teach empathy because when you do authentic inquiry, you're talking about things that matter to kids in their community and in the world. You're teaching empathy, you're teaching respect through this civic engagement. And what you're going to do is you're going to curate your curriculum and your materials to all flow together to support that inquiry process. So like I said, we've changed our core novels over the year. We do 3 a year. So we have chosen ones that better integrate with not only our social studies curriculum, but with real purpose. We do A Long Walk to Water, if you're not familiar with it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book about gender equity, access to water, the refugee crisis. So about real issues. And so curate your content. What can you use that is more purposeful? And if it's not relevant and you can get something else, then do it. Curate that curriculum, hit those standards, but try mixing up your materials. This is just a guest blog early on in my experience with inquiry, authentic inquiry. I did write about my experience. You can read it later. And the next thing I want to gift you is a really easy, wonderful graphic organizer. I did not develop it. It's from 𝐚𝐜𝐿 Challenge, which is a fantastic civic action website. You absolutely should check it out. When kids are examining an issue, you provide the structure, the format, the parameters, and within that structure, the kids do and think and create. So what we have here is a root cause tree. And everyone, you do not need to have this diagram. The kids can draw their own tree, but I want to show you the diagram just so you can see what it looks like. Basically, you're analyzing an issue. The kids are concerned about waste at school, which was a big one on campus for several years. The issue goes in the middle, the trunk, holding up everything. And then what does this issue look like? So the foliage, the trees, the branches, these are the symptoms. What do we see? What do we feel? How does this impact us? And then the roots, what is causing this issue? So it's a great way, a simple way, a graphic way for students to analyze an issue. And honestly, it's an excellent tool for your staff. I have used this with staff where we analyze some of the bigger issues at school that we want to really target that year. So it's a way for students to dissect a problem and then to break it up into smaller parts and then to truly do the research. So I have this here for you. I think I also linked a lesson for you that kind of takes you through the processes here. So Aziz, are we doing pretty well so far?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions from anyone?
So this is basically a diagram for initiating a project, right?
Absolutely. And it's to analyze a problem. And so what's important, Aziz, is to know that when I'm talking about projects, I'm talking about something with purpose. And I think that's very important, which is why I call inquiry instead of project-based learning. It's very easy for certain teachers to make projects. So for instance, in 4th grade in California, the students studied the mission system, the settlement of Spain, the Catholic mission system. But the project is always to make a mission. There's no meaning. There's no examination of treatment of indigenous peoples. There's no examination of the flow of power through the Catholic Church system. There's no discussion of colonialization. It's let's study missions, we'll make a really cute project so the parents are happy. A lot of teachers will do theme teaching or project-based learning and think they're doing inquiry, and they are not. That doesn't mean in inquiry you don't make something, but what you make, what you create, what you design is in the service of something else. Does that make sense?
Yes, so this is really interesting because you know, when some teachers create or design projects, they just do it for the sake of a project. They don't do it as a reaction or to find a solution to a problem, right, or to try to change something. And that's what you refer to as inquiry. You have to start with questions, driving questions, then to reach certain solution or to change something in the society.
Right. And not only that, you may not know what that solution is, because based on that driving question and your research, then you will know what is the best product or solution. Is it a presentation? Is it a speech at a school board meeting? Is it starting a charity? Is it doing something else? Is it meeting with your local government leaders? So it's not necessarily a thing. It could be an impact. It could be an action. And it is foolhardy to decide we're going to make this when you haven't done the process. As we say, it's putting the cart before the horse. And that's where teachers get hung up on things looking cute. But the parents will come in and they won't see anything. And I totally disagree. You're going to see walls with diagrams, charts, to-do lists, research. You're going to see your child thinking. And you're going to see your child recycling. You're going to see your child at a board meeting. You're going to see your child writing letters and Skype interviewing charities and leaders, having experts come in. You're going to see something different. And Absolutely. It's not going to be cute. It's going to be powerful. That's the difference. And that's hard for some teachers. And that's why I don't call it project-based learning. I may call it problem-based learning because at least is focused on an issue, but I really don't like the name project-based learning. And people will argue with me on that, but I agree with myself. So there you go.
Yes, inquiry is good. That's first.
Yes. And to inquire is what we do as humans. It is our nature to wonder. And sometimes schools beat that out of us, right? You know, little ones are always asking questions. If you're a parent, your child asks you a million questions. And then all of a sudden through the years in school, now they sit and receive. They're not encouraged to ask, lest they be thought insolent. So I'm here to knock it all over. Let's start asking questions. Let's be curious. We are curious by nature.
Absolutely.
So, part of what I do, so again, going back to this problem-based learning, this inquiry and asking what kids wonder about. And of course, I also do curricular inquiry because I'm required to teach certain content. So what I try to do is within our content framework, what do you wonder? And over the last couple of years, I have discovered the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. And this is, I'll tell you right now, it's not about anyone's politics. These are human rights issues. And we're all humans. And I'm not asking you to support the United Nations or not. That's not what this is about. This is about the issues of, as you can see on the screen, no poverty, no hunger, that everyone is generally healthy, has access to adequate healthcare, quality education. These are basic human rights. And so when I ran across these, everything clicked for me. So what we do, yes, we have to learn ancient civilizations, but we talk about the change, which is one of our universal themes. How has our societal structures changed over time? So we look at economic systems, we look at social hierarchies, we look at access to resources, which is also sometimes based on social class as well. And so we use these sustainable development goals to guide us and to always help us relate the then to now. And so I do want to share these with you. I don't know if anyone else is familiar with these. I've given you links here. My favorite thing is the lazy person's guide to the Sustainable Development Goals and what you can do wherever you are in your life and in advocacy and action. They even tell you how to start saving the world from your couch. So I like that. Some of you gear up for the new school year and you can't get off the couch yet, start there. But these are just the basics of being who we are and wanting us to be good, healthy, productive people. And so what I do with my kids is I introduce these every year. I have hyperdocs, we introduce the goals, and through inquiry, we take what we wonder and the kids focus on a goal that really intrigues them. And within these goals, there are targets. So I help the students get much more specific. Gender equity may be an interest to a few people, and they might group together. And they're going to look at gender equity in ancient civilizations and issues now, always tying the new to the known. So I highly, highly encourage you to look at these as well. So I want to show you what my curriculum looks like. Again, a work in progress. So in spring, in fall, which for me starts on next Monday, I do awareness. And as I mentioned earlier, we start with identity work. Who are we? Let's get to know each other as classmates, as people. We do, if you guys are familiar with Flipgrid, we make Flipgrid videos introducing ourselves, making sure we state our names clearly. Everyone can pronounce our names out of respect. If you want to share your pronouns for sixth graders, they may not know that yet. Some clearly do. Just who are you? What makes you you? And then we use identity webs and we start expanding from our small worlds to things we think about, who we really are, our ancestry, things like that, if we have access to it. At the same time, we're doing identity work, building awareness about ourselves. I'm introducing the Sustainable Development Goals. We're building awareness about the world. And through my curriculum, we're reading A Long Walk to Water, which for my group in Southern California, I'm in a suburban school district, very privileged children, the majority are white. This book takes place in South Sudan, dual narrative, where the female protagonist, basically her job is household duties to fetch water every day. The water is not clean. The male protagonist is a lost boy of Sudan. We're dealing with refugee crises, languishing in refugee camps. These are things my students have never thought about in a million years. And that's my job. Build awareness, local, global, within, without. And so we spend our spring doing that. Now, do I teach reading strategies at the same time? Of course I do. But I teach the strategies and the skills in the service of meaningful content. So this book relates to the development of civilizations. It relates to sustainable development goals. It relates to building awareness. All of it goes together. By winter, we're now able to be a voice for ourselves and others. We're able to communicate with each other. This is who I am. I respect you for who you are. I feel deeply about certain issues. I've really taken on gender roles over time with one of the sustainable development goals, and I'm exploring that further. How can I be a voice for girls around the world who don't have the same access to education that we do here in the United States? And through this research, we're now starting to be a voice for self and others. And then by spring, we have focused on some sort of action, whatever that action is. And I can't tell you what all my students' actions will be this year. In the past, we have a very green focus in our district the last couple of years, very environmentally focused. So the kids have focused a lot on land use and recycling and native plants and things like that. That's just kind of where we've been at. But the shift in our district the last year or two has been towards diversity and inclusion. And I know we have a student group that I facilitate here that's all about looking at dress codes, looking at gender equity issues, making sure we represent all sorts of cultures. And so that's the next shift. My job is to recognize that shift and capitalize on it. So by spring, I am just here to facilitate all these projects that the kids want to do. And remember, projects are not necessarily a thing. It could be a service. Does that make sense? And it's a lot, and it's fun, and it's crazy, and it's exhausting in just the right way because it is so impactful. And it's not just making something cute. Making something cute and putting it on the table, that's easy. But it's really boring, and it's not fun, and it's not purposeful. So if you wanted easy, you probably wouldn't be in education, is my guess. So here's what action can look like. It can be donations. That's really easy for my population. You know, clothes drives, recycling drives, things like that, donating toiletries. You know, our kids travel a lot. They're a very privileged set. Joining school clubs, so joining together to promote a cause, charity work. And a lot of kids think, well, I don't have any money. You have time and you have talent. We have artists. We have so many students who are so adept at digital creation, website creation, things like that. Those are the kids we want helping us really promote our causes. Petitions, walks, marches, research memos. And you can see it gets a little more complex. Letters of complaint. Boy, do kids love to complain. Kids just love to complain. How about I teach them a proper letter format, how to maintain formal language, how to complain in a way that someone wants to listen? How can we craft our language and market our complaint in a way that may actually get someone to make a change? That's my job as a teacher. That's where we write for multiple purposes. City ordinances, grant proposals. There's free money out there. The kids want a playground. Let's look up some grants with the city. Those are some smaller scale things. And again, I must have been on a Star Wars fascination, you know, and the idea is not to resist. It's not to be anti-government or anti-adult. It's how can we make change in a way that people go, that is a good idea. Our goal is not to offend, because once we offend the listener, they're done. They're not listening. They're not going to do anything for us. So it's kind of like your intent and your impact have to match. So these are just some ideas. And again, the idea is to really curate your content. And I have a lot of freedom in my grade level and at my school to do that. I do work with my team and we try to choose what is best. But as long as I teach to the standards, I can choose supplemental material. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. So like I mentioned, I use A Long Walk to Water. And I just discovered this beautiful, beautiful graphic novel called When Stars Are Scattered. And this is about Somali refugees. And ironically, or coincidentally rather, the stories take place, these two books take place in the same refugee camp. But one are in A Long Walk to Water, he's a Sudanese refugee, and the brothers in When Stars Are Scattered are Somali refugees. So now we're going to take a look at what does it mean to be a refugee? I'm not being political. We're going to look at the issue. I'm simply presenting the issue. This is a real issue, Syrian refugee crisis. You know, this is not new. I'm simply presenting the issue, not my viewpoint. That's for the kids to research and look at sources and what are the viewpoints in the refugee crisis topic. So I teach reading strategies before so that we can go through a text strategically. And I also, like I said, teach a sustainable development goal. So as we read, we're identifying big issues. Oh, Mrs. Heller, she has to fetch water every day. And then she's going to get married. And when she has a child, if it's a girl, that girl's going to fetch water every day. I said, yes, it's a recurring role, not passing judgment. And then the water that they access is not clean. So we look at, oh, Mrs. Heller, that is the issue of clean water and sanitation, sustainable development goal number 6. That's right. Well, Mrs. Heller, we just turn on a faucet and we know our water's clean. Right. So there's an inequity of access, isn't there? Well, why is that? That's a great question, you guys. Why is that? I'm not answering. That's their research. That's their inquiry. And then the students say, well, Mrs. Heller, we should do something. I'm like, gosh, we really should. What should we do? There we go. Well, Mrs. Heller, I don't know where to start. That's where I can help you. Let's look at what's been done. Does that make sense? So my job is really to facilitate, to question back and forth, kind of a Socratic method, if you will. And really I lay the groundwork in, like I said earlier, curating my curriculum. So, and again, this is kind of, you know, here's this guy with his head in the sand. My job is to build awareness in my students. I teach a very sheltered group of kids. We call where I teach a bubble, just a beautiful bubble. At the outside world is this dark, scary place, but in here it's safe and wonderful. And it's not that I want to ruin my kids' outlook on life, but I want them to be part of the world. I want them to understand that they have immense power and understanding and empathy, that they can do something. And so that's how really these authentic projects come about, because I've designed the curriculum to pique their interest, to make them more aware. And so with this book that I start with, the kids are not only applying their reading strategies, but they're learning about kids their age in other parts of the world, the troubles, the celebrations as well. And it shouldn't always be about issues and troubles. It should also be about celebrations. And what I love to bother my students with is, what are you going to do about it? I'm not going to solve your problem. I'm going to help you research the problem, and design your own solution. And let's see if it works. And it may not work, but boy, did you learn a lot along the way. And so that's really what it's about. Yes, someone just commented, they asked students to help them with, asking the teacher to help with them with their ideas. Absolutely. Perfect. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing, so about curating content, what I do, now remember I teach 6th grade, so they're in 11 and 12, but never underestimate the power of a picture book. And so we also read around the issue, and my kids just love sitting on the floor and reading. And so I will bring fiction and nonfiction texts in to supplement the core text, especially current events. But there's these beautiful, beautiful books about access to water, the roles of females in certain societies and cultures, the refugee crisis in a way that's a little easier for kids to understand without reading a research paper or a newspaper, which can be a little textually heavy for kids. And again, we're tying it all to sustainable development goals. Mrs. Heller, this is about inequalities. And look at this, in this book, the female in the village has to do the same thing as this culture. Yes, isn't that interesting? You know, so we're able to like really bring it in, and I call it reading around the issue, which I do highly recommend. The other thing, and I would love to know how everyone teaches, and what I mean, I have a huge classroom. I don't share my classroom. It is ugly. It is ugly, but it's big. And
how many students you have?
I will have a year from 30 to 35, and I teach 3 classes.
Wow.
So just so you know, I keep a coffee maker in my room. So anyone out there, if you're teaching through inquiry, you have to drink coffee or caffeinated tea. Yes. I didn't mention that earlier, but that is part of it. Caffeine is your friend, and chocolate. But okay, enough about me. So, and cookies. Okay, anyway. So this is what my room looks like. I'm looking at it right now. I took this picture a couple years ago, but I'm still looking at my round tables. Thank you. I got them back after COVID because we had to go to rows and that was not suiting me. But I have round tables, and Aziz and I were talking before this officially started about the power of collaboration. Is your room designed for collaboration? And I got rid of my desks. I don't like to teach kids in rows. I want them to look at each other, talk to each other, share materials safely, of course, with masks on. My walls are not cute. They are filled with chart paper, and the kids are writing on the walls, and they're using Post-its, and they're referring to charts, and they're going back to the computers, and they're sitting on their floors. My room is not quiet. It's what we call working noise. And so when we're investigating an issue, there's a hustle and bustle. The kids are thinking about, to answer this question, what do we already know? What do we already know? And this is where the teacher may have to do on-the-spot teaching to build background and things like that. What do we need to answer this question? What information do we need? What materials do we need if we're going to design a prototype for something? How does this issue impact me and others? What do we already do? What do we need to know? And so the classroom, an inquiry classroom, is an active place. There's partnering, there's individual work, there's pair work, there's teamwork. It's a lot, and it's beautiful. What's the teacher doing? The teacher's all over the place because groups are working. I'm at one table, spot checking. What do you need? What do you need? Okay, great. No, do this, do this. A group that struggles more, I'm now an official member of their group. And I'm able to get to more people instead of just direct instruction, which has its place, but not all the time. It's just a different way of doing things. Yes. And as a dean, if I'm saying that correctly again, yes, you need to do some research about the issue. I do a lot of pre-screening of some of the sources. I usually establish a mini library of articles and books for the kids to start with, because I've looked at them beforehand. Also just readability, and then content appropriateness, making sure it's age appropriate and things like that. But yes, you're absolutely correct. You should probably have a basic understanding of these issues, which I do try to do. And again, what I'm asking, or what I'm presenting today, is not about redoing or getting all new curriculum. What do you do already that you can do better or more with? What can you get rid of? What's redundant? So if I can use a long walk to water to teach reading strategies and global goals, the sustainable development goals and inquiry, I'm accomplishing a lot with one text. What do you have that you can do something more with? Take a look at some of your favorites. Are you doing it just because it's fun? Well, there's more fun to be had when something is engaging for students. When the student feels deeply about the issue, that's fun. Not haha fun, but that's fun. And it helps, you're helping the students ask better questions, tying it to those universal themes, helping them. I give accountable talk, sentence stems to help them phrase things, in a complete sentence. I disagree with so-and-so because, and, my evidence is blah, 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 blah. Because I teach ancient civilizations, we are taking what we learn about our past, connecting it to what's going on now. Again, the Sustainable Development Goals play a huge part in it. And then my standards, reading, writing, listening, speaking, we're doing that through our research skills. We're reading articles, but they're not in isolation. They're about our driving questions. There's so many wonderful sources. If you know Newsella or commonlit.org, they're wonderful resources for information for students. They're at different reading levels as well, because being able to access a text is very important, whatever level you are. Videos, podcasts, any way that a student can access information, that's my job to present it to them, multiple access points. So everyone's on the same page. Turn your have tos into need tos, and then be heard and seen. So that's why we start with awareness of yourself and others. You can join Global Classroom. You can actually join other classrooms around the world and collaborate. Aziz found me somehow, right? So now we've got this global collaboration because I'm in California, you're in Morocco. You can actually partner with other classrooms and talk about the same sustainable development goal. I had a colleague do that. There's a great program called Starting with Hello about inclusivity and bullying and mental health issues. Seesaw, Padlet, all these wonderful technologies that we can use. I'm a huge fan of Flipgrid. And I share with you a really fun lesson. It's not even a lesson, it's an activity. It's a great way to do formative assessment. Silent conversation, where you have these questions on chart paper and students silently write their thoughts. And then other students read it and they draw a line and they connect ideas. They're having a conversation silently, no names, it's not graded. So I gave that to you there. There's a wonderful website called Facing History, free resources as well about silent conversation. So again, I'm giving you all these tools that you can access and really try out with your students. And I see a comment, teaching English and raising environmental issues in my class is a challenge. I'm curious as to what the barriers are, and I would love for you to ask me this question at the end, because I would love to discuss it with you, if you don't mind. I plan inquiry, I curate resources, I provide the time, graphic organizers, help set up groups, and then I let it just do its thing. And if you, okay, this is now for the younger people, then I let it go, let it go. So Aziz, sorry for singing. I'm hoping someone out there knows this, but it's, you get to stand back and watch kids do their thing. I step in when needed, but this is about kids taking ownership of things that they care about. I absolutely help in. I do on-the-spot teaching, mini lessons, vocabulary lessons if needed, help with technology, help them understand how to access certain information online. I'll teach digital literacy. We'll bring in experts. If we have to look at, if we're examining charities, trying to choose a charity, I might have someone come in who can help us read financial statements to make sure that a charity is donating most of what we give to the folks we want to sponsor, as far as having a high overhead versus a low overhead. I'm not an expert in that, but we'll find someone who is. Okay. So let it go. You have worked so hard behind the scenes, and then just watch and enjoy. And the kids are so into it, you guys. So, and if they're not, you need to contact me. Something fishy's going on. So These are two driving questions that are really with my students at this school have been a big issue with them. One is, how might we positively impact our peers to reduce water waste and recycle more? Where I am in Southern California, we're in a constant state of drought. Wildfires are something, it is wildfire season. And we, God, was it 2 years ago? We shut down school for, I want to say, a week because it was too dangerous to come to school. And a lot of our students lost their homes and to fire. So it's a constant threat to us. So we've got a drought, and then we have waste. We have a district that says we are green, we're environmentally friendly, but at the same time, we sell plastic water bottles. The students notice the hypocrisy, to which I say, what are you going to do about it? Most of the students just want to set fire to everything because I don't know, I don't know. But I said, no, you're not allowed to do that. What can you do that's positive? Oh, well, we should get everyone to use reusable water bottles. Great. How are you going to do that? I don't know. Well, then you better find out. Mrs. Heller, tell us the answer. Nope. No way. You know, so that's where the project starts. How can we change people's habits? And that's what ended up happening. It took a couple years, couple groups of sixth graders that actually took the issue to the high school as well. And now what you'll see on campus is that most people use reusable water bottles. Is there still waste? Yes. And do kids put their names on their water bottles? Of course not. That was one of our failures. We're like, oh my God. So we started selling BPA phthalate-free water bottles that were reusable. We didn't have kids put their names on their bottles. And we had a mountain of water bottles that nobody wanted to touch. We failed again. Now we figured it out. But the latest question is, how can we create a more diverse and inclusive environment in school? This is a huge, huge driving question at our high school, but it has come down to middle school. And so I had students approach me and actually approach the lead of our diversity and equity task force. And I volunteered, let me facilitate this group. And I simply follow the students' lead. And they are investigating issues that move them. And they're working on getting new members, being more representative in the way they look as well. It's very heavily female. So they're working on getting more male members in. And they are currently examining dress code, discipline policy, things that absolutely impact them as students in school. My job is to facilitate. I'm a liaison between administration and students, and we just started in spring, and I'm very excited to see where it takes us. Kid driven. And this is, you know, these are just my cuties. These kids are in college, by the way, this picture. They're so cute. I had to put it. They're already in college. So I'm not going to read this slide to you, but these are the skills that every teacher does every year. We go over class rules, but why not have the kids develop the rules? How do we show respect to each other? How do we be active listeners, active contributors? How do we take responsibility for our share of the work? What is our role as a team member? So when we disagree, when there's a conflict, how do we resolve it in a way that is positive and fair? So we talk about these things, and what we do is we develop a class contract to which everyone signs. We made it together. We agreed to it. I will have some non-negotiables or certain things that I'll let the kids know this is the way it has to be for me. And we agree to it, and we all sign it. Everyone has it with them in their notebook, according to the contract that you signed. We model it. What does a good listener look like? What does a responsible team member look like? And these are all things that all teachers do at the beginning of the year, but it's always in the service of that collaboration and group work and individual and collective responsibility later on. So the skills we do should be transferable to other situations. I do want to show you, these are examples over the years of things that my students have done. We have high schoolers. So these are all sixth graders at the time, but now we have high schoolers, and the top right, these students are now juniors in college. And the work that they've done on their own to raise money. This picture here, we are interviewing a charity. We chose not to go with them, by the way. Their overhead was too high, and they didn't have enough of what we wanted to do. but we researched charities. You know, we had raised money, and who are we going to donate this to? This is very, and as I said, very privileged students digging in the garbage. Digging in the garbage. Now, they're also wearing capes. The capes are solar blankets. And I don't know if you know anything about a solar blanket, but what a solar blanket does is keep you warm. And it's really hot where I live, but they had to have an outfit. So while my students are digging in the trash for recycled bottles, they're wearing capes because we have to have an outfit. So if you tell me the inquiry is serious all the time, no, you know what? Put on a bow tie, put on funny glasses, put on a cape, probably not a solar blanket because you'll sweat to death. And there's nothing like a sweaty sixth grader. I won't even go into details, but I'm just saying puberty, sixth grade, son. Ooh. But you can make this fun because the kids are excited. They're doing something. They have something to show. Look at all this garbage. Do you know what they did with the garbage? This is another group up here on the right. We're at a board meeting. We took the garbage to the board meeting. We said we had bags of garbage. We said to the school board, this is what our classmates are leaving all over. And I'm telling you, clunk, 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 making it through giant garbage bags. We made an impression. I didn't speak. I told the kids, they don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. That's more impactful. They practiced writing 3-minute comments. So it's a speech for a specific purpose, not just a speech, not a 5-paragraph essay. Nobody wants to read that. That's not purposeful. But when you present to a school board, you have 3 minutes to make a public comment. And that is how they design their writing. How can we communicate what we need using data? Grown-ups are always concerned about money. Let's mention that. Make it quantitative, add a little qualitative subjectivity in there. Look at the adorable children. And we made an impact, but we were told no right away. We had to go back to the board meeting a couple times. The kids were mad. They told us no, we're adorable. That's life. What are you going to do about it? They learned that being adorable is not enough. And the board said, we need you to give us information on this, this, and this. And please come back. It's exactly what we did. That's failure turned into something fail forward. Okay. So, and I gave you just a little example of our proposal and meeting notes from a couple of years ago. So I'm really done talking at this point. I want to hear from you. I know we've got a couple people with us, and this would be a great time if you want to ask questions. I would love to hear what you do. Perhaps you're doing something absolutely fantastic that I need to know about. I would love, Aziz, if you can communicate questions to me. I know, Feten, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. My apologies. Yeah, the absence of, so the comment here is environmental issues and global warming are absent from the student's book. Of course it is. You know, you've got certain people writing textbooks and then publishing companies are trying to appeal to the masses. I have a textbook as well. It is one resource among many. I curate resources. Yes, we use the textbook. Here's the basics. What else do we need to know? Let's bring in these other issues. The fact that when we look at the development of ancient Indian civilization and it starts in the Indus Valley and one of the rivers disappears. Why do people migrate? You've got drought. You've got plate tectonics impacting the directions of rivers. You have global warming. I mean, look at early human development. You have to talk about global issues. Well, the book doesn't. That's nice. But the kids want to know. Let's make it real to them. The kids are like, why do we have to study history? Great question. Why do we? Let me present some of the world's greatest questions. Okay. Is global warming a thing? I'm not answering it. Let's take a look at it. Okay. So, yeah, don't get stuck in one source. Don't be a one source wonder, I would say. What else are you seeing, Aziz?
Yes, we will have some time for the audience to prepare some questions. I just want to have some quick reactions about what you, some
Yes.
points in the presentation. So I understand that you guys are working with the curriculum standard.
Yes.
And for those people who don't know this, you are working, you know, to achieve clear and measurable goals, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And
so students know what they are going to do, and teachers also are expected to do certain tasks to achieve those purposes. In your case, Vanessa, you mentioned that you are doing this inquiry mode. So there are 3 stages. So in each stage, there is awareness and advocacy and the last one, action. So how do you guarantee that there is a smooth transition from one stage to another? And this is the first question. And how also do you divide time? Do you have problems in those 2 areas?
They're not problems. I will tell you, I let it flow from where it needs to go. The awareness, advocacy, and action is something I put on top of my curriculum. So it's not an extra, but it unites my curriculum.
Okay.
So it's basically divided into 3 parts of the school year: the beginning of the school year, the middle of the school year, the end of the school year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then as far as, teaching the content and grades and things like that, I am teaching the curriculum. But what I'm doing with that curriculum is I'm connecting it through current events, connecting it through relevant reading materials to these bigger issues. So I could give the kids comprehension questions, but why not give fewer comprehension questions that are lower level thinking, but now have them tied to global issues? Explain your thinking. What do you wonder about? And then we're also doing less reading of fiction and more reading of nonfiction, so more informational text, those being articles about our driving questions. We have to teach informational text and the reading strategies that go along with that. So why can't we use a text that pertains to our driving question instead of something contrived out of the package that came with my textbook that is isolated and irrelevant? I can do the same with a text that's more meaningful. So to me, it's just more logical and it's more integrated and seamless that way. Am I still grading you? Am I giving you a chapter test? Yes, I am. And then we're also doing something else. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can you elaborate more on this idea of the curriculum standards? Because I think it's only done in United States and Canada. It's not done elsewhere.
Okay.
So, for example, in California, you as an educator, you have this inquiry-based approach.
Yes. An approach is different than curriculum. And an inquiry approach is applicable to any curriculum, any content standard. So as a 6th grade teacher in California, we have a curriculum framework that is the subjects we teach. And we have something called the Common Core Standards, which is basically how we teach it.
Yes.
So I teach to both of those. As a 6th grade teacher in language arts, there are certain things I have to teach: paragraph formation, writing for different purposes, your basic essay format. And my curriculum in 6th grade history is ancient civilizations, from early humans to the rise of Rome. As a classroom teacher, I am responsible for that. And so every grade level will have a different set of content to teach. And it technically spirals from one grade level to another.
Oh, this is interesting, really.
Yeah.
And you also, I think you have the chance to be creative. You said that you create your own materials.
Yes. And not every teacher in every school has the freedom to do that. And that is something that is problematic. It's not something you should disregard. It's a way of educating others that you work with about a more meaningful approach. What I found in my experience, that low performing schools tend to do low skill work. The teachers tend to teach to the test because they need those higher test scores to get the funding.
Absolutely.
And there's no learning. It's just creating robots and rote learning. Whereas here we do state testing. You know, you're talking about, you know, accountability and things. Yes, we do state testing, but the way we teach still produces high test scores. Because we teach, we spend more time teaching how to think than just teaching to take a test. So it's a different way. And honestly, it's kind of an equity issue because our low performing schools, generally speaking, tend to be schools with kids of color. And so that's a whole different conversation we can have. And again, I'm making a generalization, but it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation about privilege and that kind of thing. But in my particular school district, we are trusted to do what we think is best for our kids. And if anyone went to school and was bored, that was me. Nothing was connected to me. Like I said at the very beginning, school and learning, they were two separate things. I was the kid who read books under her desk because it was infinitely more interesting. By the way, none of my teachers liked me. And look what happened to me. This is karma. I now teach middle school, right? So, you know, my goal as a teacher is really to make learning and school one. Am I always successful? I can't tell you, but, you know, I try, you know, and I just find in my experience that teaching through inquiry, authentic inquiry, the engagement of all students at all ability levels, embracing everyone's genius, cultivating their talents to contribute to the group work instead of me saying, we're going to make a poster. You know, it just honors all learners. And it's just logical to me. And of course, my job is to create productive citizens. I mean, that's my job. I'm a parent and a teacher. We want contributing members of society. I would hope.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have some comments from teachers. And,
yes.
So there is a question on how can a teacher in a public school integrate these themes in an already busy curriculum? Teachers hardly find the time to cover the curriculum, let alone adding other themes.
Yes, absolutely. And that involves looking at your curriculum. Whether you have a pacing calendar where you know what you teach, you know, over the course of the school year. Is there something you can do more with? Is there something you can get rid of? What if you, so I'll give you an example. We used to read a novel, and then kids had to make a little mini book where they wrote a 3-sentence summary and colored a picture. Coloring is not in our standards. Doesn't mean we don't like to color, but I got rid of that entirely. We don't need to use the time for that. We can do something else. With that particular book, it's The Adventures of Ulysses, which is basically a kid version of Homer's The Odyssey. Why don't we examine what it means to be a hero? Oh, hello. We can study the hero's journey. We can take that time when we're just coloring and writing a 3-sentence summary. We can use the summary in the service of something else. In this chapter, you summarize a chapter. Here are the qualities that distinguish Ulysses as a hero. In real life, a hero might do this. So yes, we're still reading the same book, but instead of doing that activity, which was really, really low level thinking, turn it into something else. Get rid of it, substitute it for something else. Is there something that you do because you've always done it and it's 20 years old? Take a look at it. Why are you doing it? You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Oh, because we all do it. That's nice. Like you say to your children, oh, you want to do it because he's doing it. If he jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? Right? Are you doing something just because? You know, we have to use inquiry too. We have to ask ourselves these driving questions. What can I do differently? And I'll tell you what, there will never be enough time. There will never be enough time. So what? Just not going to be enough time. That's all there is to it. It's the way it is. But you have to self-reflect. You have to take all this information in and say, what am I doing this year that I can do differently What new thing can I introduce? What can I get rid of? That really is low-level thinking that doesn't have purpose. It's not serving a higher goal. So that's my suggestion, and using a little, just really some self-examination. And as a dean says, the curriculum embraces the principles of IBL. Oh, is that International Baccalaureate? Is that what that IBL is?
I'm not sure of this abbreviation. Maybe it's international. As Dean, what do you mean by IBL? Because it could mean something else.
Because we're all from different areas and different acronyms. Oh yes, and so the Habib mentions digital tools. That is so fantastic. The fact that Aziz and I are talking, I'm in California, Aziz, you're in Morocco. We are on Zoom and Facebook Live at the same time. This can't happen 10 years ago, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And think about, we've had the advent of technology. The pandemic, a horrible, horrible thing, has made us have to think differently. Out of conflict came change. Those are two universal themes. Out of this conflict, out of this horrible time, comes the ingenuity to use technology in a way that keeps us connected. You have started your group, Everyone Academy, to educate and collaborate. This is a beautiful way of using technology, not just to create, again, something cute, but a way that we can educate each other and share what we do. That's huge. And that's what we want our students to do. Our students are way ahead of us. They're talking online and all sorts of stuff. But now let's help them talk about something truly meaningful instead of video games. So, yeah.
So this is an I, not an L. Oh, okay. So you mean inquiry-based learning?
Oh, inquiry-based learning. Okay. Okay. I got you. Yes. And that's wonderful. And there are schools that I am aware of that there's a program called expeditionary learning, I believe. And those are project-based learning units that they try. Some schools are, they are expeditionary learning schools. PBLworks.org, formerly Buck Institute. They have lessons. Oh, excuse me, been sitting too long. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry, motion lights. They have free lessons on project-based learning, which is what they call it. There are resources out there. I do this usually by myself, but I have over the years gotten a group together. I started the Oak Park Inquiry Institute, and there are a lot of us now that teach through this way. Not all the time. Sometimes we get very traditional, but it is a movement. And the fact that I'm here with you today talking about inquiry, it has come to fruition, and it is engaging, and it's purposeful, and it's positive. It's positive. And that's, honestly, we need empathy and we need positivity right now more than ever. And kids are our future, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I think I just quoted Whitney Houston, but I'm not going to sing a Whitney Houston song. So you don't want me to. So, yes. And someone commented on online projects and, the role of homework also. And I don't know where everyone's from, if they do homework, beyond the school day, if they assign homework. But even the role of homework changes with inquiry, because what you're doing is in support of the in-class work. It's not something separate. Or it can be, you can take the vocabulary work and the math practice. That can be homework that can be done very, very independently, so that class time can be used for discussion, collaboration, research, presentation, so that you use that together time in a more meaningful and a much higher level. Whereas you can do the rote stuff, go ahead and practice at home if you have to give homework or if homework is a thing. So, and I find that kids do a lot more collaboration. The groups will take it out of school, and they'll have group chats, and they're FaceTiming each other, and they're Zooming and Google Meeting at home, working on their projects together. And that's the beauty of technology also. If you're a Google app school, which we are, kids are sharing documents and they're doing research together, and they're getting together in person before COVID. And And again, it's really a beautiful thing. The way kids work together is different. It's not so isolated anymore. It's beautiful.
Yes, I think your approach is really exciting, this inquiry-based learning approach, because, and you mentioned the idea of the garbage.
Yes.
So you are taking things seriously. You are taking actions. It is not just theory. So you are taking actions to the streets. You are facing. You are trying to change something in society. And that's the objective of this whole approach. It is just it is not just there is an expression or a proverb. You talk the talk and you walk the walk, right?
Right. And there's a difference, and I didn't say this earlier. There's service learning, which is working within a system. So the kids here start with recycling. They wanted to raise money for charity and clean the campus. They're not making a change, okay? But when the kids decided that the district should ban the sale of plastic water bottles, now we're talking about changing policy, and still on a very small scale. This is not truly civic engagement. And so this is when they appealed to the school board, please stop selling plastic water bottles. And like I said, it took time because the school makes money. Schools need money. We never have enough money. So eventually, we have made much more progress in that area to change a practice. And that's when you get true civic action, when you make systemic change. My example is very, very simplistic. But with the student-led groups for our diversity and equity task force, they're looking at making systemic change. Changing policies, changing practices. And that is the true goal of authentic inquiry, is that systemic change. That's true civic action that is different than service learning. That's the ultimate. Do we always get there? No. Is that where we would like to go? Absolutely.
Yes, that's great. Those are very interesting ideas. Do you have a quick comment on you mentioned the world's largest lesson. I saw this on so many learning management systems. And I'm always curious on what is this, and what is the objective of this world's largest lesson.
This is.
I saw it on one of the slides you mentioned it.
Yes, here we go. So let me see where it takes us. It is just a wonderful resource. Again, free. It's basically sponsored by the United Nations, but again, you don't have to create everything new. This is literally a website with information. Become a climate change maker. Someone was talking about bringing in issues of climate change. Look, here's a resource about inviting children to write a message about climate education. I would say don't just write a message. That's advocacy. Now what? What can you do? Designing for climate. Oh my God, look at this. 10 hours, 10 activities, 1 project. Hello. They have campaigns you can join. You can work with other classrooms. So what I'd love to give to people are free resources. I don't own them, but I found them. I'm like the world's biggest closet, if you will. If you're looking for something, I probably have it. And this is something that I found through someone else. You can explore the goals. They'll give you information about the goals and what you can do about it. And these are actually very kid-friendly as well. Okay. Oh my God. Hello, Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. You know, you're going to listen to her, right? So, kids can tap into celebrities they enjoy. Posters, again, posters, not my favorite, but they're a way to advocate. Put them around school. You have our artists, your kids who love to work with their hands, have them design things. Everybody wins when girls stay in school. Actually, I just found this. I actually need this. I'm going to use this for one of my mini inquiries. An introduction to gender equality in a way that younger people can understand. Excellent resources. So definitely check these out. I'm so glad you mentioned this. And speaking of resources, let me skip to one of the later slides. And what I have for you, and all the links should work, is I have resources for you. So my mentor, Steven Zemelman, he's the one that really got me started on not inquiry, but the civic action part of it. He's my mentor. He's my friend. And he's really just helped guide my way. And so here's some of his works, but also there's some sustainable development goal information for you, a couple book recommendations, and then the mikvah challenge, highly recommend it for secondary. I'm kind of bothering them on Twitter to do a younger version. Books about kids who are changing the world. You can go on, there's TED Talks about kids, our students' age, changing the world. Look at Greta Thunberg. Okay. There's so many amazing people that are the same age as our students doing something. If someone else can do it, you can do it. Why not? I will be there to support you and guide you when needed. So inspiration is huge. The Teen Guide to Global Action. Oh my God, whoever commented this, look, you got to check these out. Kids Guide to Service Projects. And this again is not an extensive source, but this is a place for kids to start. I have these books in my classroom. Let's look up and see what's been done already. What can you do? So, you know, that's my job, curator. I'm the curator. I'm the museum director. Okay. I'm the camp counselor and museum director. Current events. Again, I have a feeling these are going to be more focused on United States issues, but these are all resources for news. And wherever you are in your home country, see what's available to you. But hello, it's the internet. You can access anything anywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love this school tube, this idea of school tube.
Oh, on YouTube. Yes.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, and that's wonderful too. And you can look for journalism videos about current events as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and then for me, this is a messy process. It's recursive, it's time consuming, it's exhausting. And oh my God, it's so fabulous. That's what I want you to know. It's so fabulous. And that is a quote by Stephen Zemelman in the book From Inquiry to Action, which is really just an inspirational text from me. Lots of examples of teachers inspiring their students to make systemic change. And this little cutie pie is just one of my students. Gosh, I think he's almost done with high school now. We did a simulation where, just like the female protagonist in the book who has to fetch water every day, we carried water around all day long. Now, it pales in comparison, but just to get my privileged bunch of students, just to see that, you know, oh, gee, this is annoying. Yeah. Now multiply that by 10, your entire life. And this is your assigned role in life. There is nothing else. Oh, well, that's not fair. Really. We talk about cultural relativism and you know, what one child thinks is unfair is just the way we do things somewhere else. My job is to simply ask, facilitate. But these kids were really inspired by the content, which we curated here. And again, behind him is all our work, our research, our putting solutions and ideas down behind him. And it's because we took content that was relevant and meaningful, and inquiry was inspired from it. And so that is kind of what I want to leave you with. So.
Yes, that's really interesting. I can sense that through the presentation and the slides that you are very passionate about what you do, that you like what you do,
yes.
That you are trying to be creative, open to other teachers. And this is really one of the greatest qualities of a successful teacher. So really bravo to you. Great job.
Well, thank you. And shouldn't we all enjoy what we do? I mean, I love kids. I have fun every day. Like I said, it's a very frustrating job, but I get to sing and dance every day, Aziz, whether the students like it or not.
Yes,
so,
it's great.
And, you know, it's not easy for us. If we don't like our job, we can't just simply quit, right? That's just not possible. It's not practical. We have families to support and things like that. So if you're not having fun in your job, what are you going to do about it? If you don't feel like the kids are learning, that's on you. What are you going to do about it? I know students bring all sorts of issues to school, but what happens in the classroom? What can you do to bring out every child's genius and talents and engage them in something that is powerful for them so that they become adults who want to do better in the world as well?
Yes.
Sounds like a good job to me, right?
Okay, thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing all these very interesting ideas.
My pleasure. My
We
pleasure.
feel like very you made us feel enthusiastic, about learning about all these topics you mentioned. So that's really beautiful. Do you have any like final tips or comments to the audience of Everyone Academy?
I would say this is the perfect time of year. You know, most schools, at least in my country, start very soon, at the end of August or September. This is the time when we're thinking about what the school year will be. And why not try one small thing? Don't rearrange your whole year. That's a lot to take on. I've been doing this for a long time. What is something maybe in winter or spring that you could do that's inquiry based? Start small. Even if you start asking better questions, pick something that you can experiment with and try it. And ask your students, what do you care about? Ask them, what do they care about? And look at your curriculum.
Vanessa, what you just said, what we do here in Everyone Academy, we ask teachers and people who watch the webinars to write some takeaways from the webinars, and what they can apply in their classroom, what challenges they might face.
Yes.
Because we want these webinars to to be useful in a way for teachers. And as you said, they can use some of the ideas you mentioned in this presentation and apply it and see if it is working, what the challenges. We cannot learn without trying.
Absolutely. And nobody's perfect, and you're going to mess up, and your students are going to mess up. We have to be models of imperfection. No one's perfect. And when we fail and when the lesson goes wrong, reflect, model it for students. Oh my God, you guys, this was horrible. I need help. What can we do about this? Well, Mrs. Heller, you could plug in the board the next time. Yes, that's a great idea. Good thinking, and just revel in it. This is teaching. It's a hot mess. I probably spilled coffee on and created an electrical, God knows what. All right, that's what paper's for. Let's move on. No internet the day we have to research. What are we going to do? We're going to do something different. You know how it is. If you've been teaching long enough, something always happens. A skilled teacher always has something in her back pocket. So, but if you don't try, don't complain. Don't tell me you want to do something different, but then you never do anything different because you're scared. You can't ask your students to take a risk if you don't take a risk. That's not fair. You need to model it for your students.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great advice. So we will definitely have another session with you, Vanessa, in the future.
Love to. Love to.
Yeah, we feel like there is a lot to learn from you.
And kids are awesome, you guys. You know that. I think we used to be kids, right? We used to be children.
Yes.
Very recently for me, of course. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, and talk to you later.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.